Okay.
Kelly, you ready to go?
3:31:17. At large, gotcha. And he is the same. 3:31:17. All right, thank you.
I want to call to order the City Council meeting for April the 16th, 2013. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Present.
Kenyon.
Here.
Petty.
Here.
Tennant.
Here.
Shopmeyer.
Here.
Adams. Here. Long.
Here.
Gray. Here. Mayor Jordan.
Here. Would you join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. On the first order of business tonight, under announcements, proclamations, and recognitions, we have the Arkansas Individual Volunteer of the Year Award. Connie Edmonston, the head of the Parks and Rec Department, will be giving out the awards tonight. First one goes to Volunteer of the Year.
Great. Good evening. Nancy. I'm Connie Edmonston, Director of Fayeteville Parks and Recreation, and this is Nancy Allen. She is the president of the Southeast Fayetteville Community Center. The Southeast Fayetteville Community Center Board has a unique partnership with the Yvonne Richardson Center. The board serves as an advisory board for the YRCC and also serves as a primary source of funding for the free programming at the YRCC. The Yvonne Richardson Center has served the citizens of Southeast Fayetteville and beyond that since its creation in 1996. The center places a heavy emphasis on free youth programming to benefit socioeconomically disadvantaged children. It would not be possible to provide these programs for free without the assistance of this board. On August the 28th, 2012, the board hosted the first annual Evening with Our Kids banquet at the Fayetteville Town Center with guest speakers Mike Anderson and Nolan Richardson. The event was organized almost entirely by the board, by Nancy, and it was a remarkable success with over 350 participants. This event raised $20,000 for programs at YRCC. In addition, this board has worked throughout the year to promote the center at every opportunity available. In 2012, the board contributed 116 hours directly to the center, and this does not include the many personal hours on the phone or visiting local businesses to help promote the banquet or the center. Mayor and City Council, please help me in honoring our Arkansas Recreation Park Advisory, let me start over. Please help me in honoring Arkansas Recreation Parks Association Volunteer Group of the Year, the Southeast Fayetteville Community Center.
This is for Group of the Year.
This is Group of the Year.
I am honored to be a part of the Yvonne Richardson Center. We're doing great things down there, and I hope that sometime all of you will have an opportunity to come down and visit and see what's going on. It's with great pleasure that I accept this award, and I thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Nancy. The next is the individual volunteer.
Yes, I'm sorry.
They had it a little backwards.
Yeah, I did. I switched those on you. Dave Bowman is a valuable citizen and community volunteer who's contributed to the City of Fayetteville's Trail Trekker program since it started in 2008. His activities included regularly traveling the trail system of Fayetteville multiple times a week and assisting trail users in a multiple of ways. Dave has a friendly and familiar face that people usually recognize on his distinctive recumbent bicycle with his signature horn. He routinely attends special events and programs on the trails and serves as a wonderful liaison to the community. He has worked with other trail trekker volunteers to set up informational booths along the trail and frequently attends Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning meetings for the Razorback Greenway. Dave can often be found helping out bicyclists with minor bike repairs, such as me, or helping to beautify the trail system by picking up trash or helping with some trail maintenance. Dave has logged over 1,780 volunteer hours riding on the trails, and also has devoted another 57 volunteer hours to presentations. He has appeared on over 150 different locations representing trail trekkers and has agreed to multiple TV stations, including the Mayor's Corner on the Government Channel. He has logged an astonishing 7,787 miles on the trail. Dave has been a leader in helping to recruit and train new volunteers for our Trail Trekker program. Mayor and City Council, please help me in honoring the Arkansas Recreation and Park Association Volunteer of the Year, Dave Bowman.
I hope I got your attention. I did this with a Rotary Club the other day, and I think I lost 3 in the front row right away. I want to say, first of all, that if you haven't been on the trail lately, come on out. I've been on the trail pretty regularly for quite some time, and I have met people from every continent out there on our trail except Antarctica. Still looking. But the concept is people come here because they enjoy it. It's a great city, and now with the trail system we have out there, they're really, really, really smiling. And that's an important part. Continuous improvement on that trail makes it a big thing. I just stopped by, in fact, I've added 8 more miles on the trail this morning. I met a young couple. They appeared to be in their upper 70s or lower 80s. And they were getting on bicycles because they hadn't done it for a while. It doesn't matter. You can be pretty old, I'm guessing. I've seen people up in their mid-80s out there, and I've seen lots and lots of young people. So it's a community effort. There's a lot of other trail trekkers out there doing that. We really appreciate the support that we get from the city, and we really appreciate the chance to represent the city out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the City Council meeting presentations, reports, and discussion items. The nominating committee has a report. City Council member Kelly Gray, will you give us that report?
Yes, I'm happy to report that we had 17 applications for the Advertising and Promotion Commission, and 17 great applicants, and we had to choose only 2. And those 2 that we chose were Hannah Withers for 1 tourism term ending 3/31/17, and Bobby Farrell for the at-large member for a term ending 3/31/17.
Okay.
And I present that as a motion, sir.
We have a motion and a second to accept the advertising and commotion appointments. Any discussion on that? Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Petty?
Yes.
Tennant?
Yes.
Shopmar?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Under agenda additions, we have had a situation occur on Rogers Drive in the last couple of weeks. Is that about right? And about half that road is caved off. So we've tried to shore it up, but it's not holding, and we're going to have to. We have pictures for you, and we're going to have to bring something to you all, or some funding to fix that road. It's not a matter of patching. The road's failing and sliding off the hillside. So I believe staff has got See, it is, it's an ordinance. Is this one an ordinance?
Mayor, if y'all will first suspend the rules and add this to your agenda.
Yeah, okay.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion second to add this to the agenda. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Okay. Jason, you want to read the ordinance for us?
read the ordinance.
Oh,
We're going to proceed with the next.
you're
An
on.
ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with a contractor providing the lowest price quote for repair to a slope failure on Rogers Drive and approving a budget adjustment. Whereas recent rainfall has aggravated ongoing problems with slope stability on the north side of the Rogers Drive water tanks, and whereas as a result of slope failure, a portion of Rogers Drive has been compromised. And whereas timing of this repair is critical, and in order to expedite the hiring process, a waiver of the requirements of competitive bidding is appropriate. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby determines an exceptional situation exists in which competitive bidding is deemed not feasible or practical, and therefore waives the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizes the mayor to sign a contract with a contractor providing the lowest price quote for repair to a slope failure on Rogers Drive, Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby approves a budget adjustment attached as Exhibit A, recognizing revenue attached as Exhibit A, period.
Okay. All right, staff, Chris?
Yes, this item is, as we talked about, is for a repair of Rogers Drive. Originally, the slope failed about 2 years ago. It was repaired by transportation, and it held for really a couple of years. With the recent rains that we've had, the larger rains, just in the past few weeks, maybe a month ago, the slope has failed again. We have a geotechnical engineer doing a design for a retaining wall system that will repair this, get down starting at the very bottom of the slope and come all the way up. And so that design is ongoing. What we propose to do as soon as the design is complete, we'd like to get 3 quotes from contractors and then take the lowest bid. And that this ordinance would allow staff to proceed with that and have the mayor sign the contract. Allow us to expedite the work by several weeks.
Mayor,
Yep.
the pictures that you have in your packet on the last page, Friday of this past week, the Transportation Division went up and actually added materials to make the road level. These are pictures today. So just since Friday, we've had another 3-foot movement of this slide. I have David Juergens here as well, because one of our concerns is this is not just sliding at the road level, but it's sliding all the way to the tower water tank location, which is the reason that we are asking for this to be kind of an emergency situation. And while we're asking for the waiving of formal competitive bidding, we are getting quotes, so we still will be going with the best price quote for the project. And not that this is something that is going to be done within this time frame, but even today we received notice from the National Weather Service of severe storms and significant rainfall for tomorrow night. So our concern is that this is a one-way in, one-way out area of town. It does not have any other connectivity. This road is to 1 lane, and should we have an emergency response requirement and have this road fail, we would be in a very difficult situation. So that's why I want you to know why this is being brought to you today.
What comments do we have from the council on this cheery little item? Dell?
Seems like something we have to do. We have no choice, so I move that we move it forward.
Second.
Mayor, may I ask to be recognized?
Certainly. Go ahead.
I feel I need to come forward and talk to you a little about the funding of this. Unfortunately, I did an improper job proofreading this resolution. The one in front of you says that the funding is going to come from recognizing revenue on a letter of credit. That's incorrect. Funding is going to have to come from reserves, sales tax capital reserves. Obviously, This is an emergency situation. We don't have anything in the budget to address it. Therefore, I'm requesting that it come out of reserves. And I'll be happy to answer anything. It's $250,000, but we do have sufficient funding in the reserves to accommodate this. And again, this is what reserves are for, in case we have emergencies, certainly affecting public safety, which it does in this particular instance. We feel this is a necessary thing out of reserves from sales tax capital fund.
Okay. What questions do we have, Paul, on this?
Just one question. I really only have this question because we never encountered this type of situation since I've been on the council. Do we maintain an emergency funding level in the street fund for things like this?
We do not. What we do have, Matthew, if we have to, in case we have a natural disaster, and this isn't an overall natural disaster, but we retain some money in a replacement and disaster fund, which we can move this in. The issue is the replacement and disaster fund. I usually use that to fund something that's on a larger scale, larger level, such as the ice storm. But there's normally a mechanism to replenish that. So I have a plan to replenish that over time. This particular one, I don't have a plan of replenishment. I don't have guaranteed money coming from FEMA. That's why I'm asking it for directly to come out of the sales tax capital fund. And remember, most of our resurfacing and things of this nature do come out of sales tax capital, not the street fund.
Thank you for explaining that.
Anything else? What public comment do we have on this? Now I'll bring it back to the council.
There's been a motion and a second to go to second reading.
Well, yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second to go to second reading.
I believe
Yes, that'll
All right.
be, yes.
All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with a contractor providing the lowest price quote for repair to a slope failure on Rogers Drive and approving a budget adjustment.
I move we suspend the rules and go to the third and final reading.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to go to the third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with a contractor providing the lowest price quote for repair to a slope failure on Rogers Drive and approving a budget adjustment.
Okay. Of course, I do again apologize for having to walk this on, but I don't have a whole lot of options here. We're going to have to repair the road and quickly. Okay? Any final comments from the council on this? Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet,
Yes.
Shopmire,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Okay. On the consent agenda, number one is approval of the April 2nd, 2013 City Council meeting minutes. Number two, bid number 10-47 King Electrical Contractors, resolution authorizing the contract with King Electrical Contractors in the amount of $44,000 pursuant to bid number 10-47 for the installation of electrical services for the computer server room at Federal Executive Airport Drake Field, and approving a project contingency of 10%. Number three, Police Department donation revenue, resolution approving a budget adjustment in a total amount of $2,100 representing the donation revenue to the police department during the first quarter of 2013 in support of officer service awards and general recognition. Excuse me, we had another walk-on, didn't we?
We did, Mr.
We
Mayor.
did, just got it.
At this point, why don't we proceed?
Well, I'll
with
go ahead and do the
consents?
consent agenda, and we'll come back to the walk-on, all right? All right. Number four, federal and state law enforcement forfeiture revenue resolution approving a budget adjustment in the amount of $31,783 representing federal and state law enforcement forfeiture revenue received through March 2013 and authorizing associated expenses. Number five, fire department Polaris Ranger utility vehicles resolution approving a budget adjustment in a total amount of $7,004 to fund fleet division purchases accessory packages for two fire department Polaris Ranger utility vehicles. Number six, Federal Executive Airport Drake Field FBO lease agreement and resolution approving a fixed base operations hangar lease agreement form in the current rental rate or as adjusted upward by the airport board or fixed based operations hangar space rented at the Federal Executive Airport Drake Field. Number 7, Airport Hayfield lease agreement, a resolution approving a 2-year extension to the airport hay lease with Donnie Sams of West Fork, Arkansas, to facilitate participation in the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service Environmental Quality Incentive Program. Number 8, amend Resolution 54-13, resolution amending Resolution number 54-13 concerning the purchase of one Chevrolet Tahoe pursuant to a state procurement contract for use by Transportation Division. Number 9, amend Resolution 55-13, resolution amending Resolution number 55-13 concerning the purchase of one Chevrolet Tahoe pursuant to a state procurement contract for use by the Solid Waste Division. Number 10, bid number 12-38, MHC Kenworth of Springdale, resolution authorizing the purchase of one Kenworth T800 semi-truck tractor pursuant to bid number 12-38 from MHC Kenworth of Springdale in the amount of $114,715 and approving budget adjustment. Number 11, Williams Tractor of Fayeteville, S590 skid steer loader, resolution authorizing the purchase of one Bobcat S590 skid steer loader from Williams Tractor of Fayeteville pursuant to a National Joint Powers Alliance cooperative purchasing contract in the amount of $37,505. Number 12, Williams Tractor of Fayeteville T590 skid steer track loader. Resolution authorizing the purchase of one Bobcat T590 skid steer loader from Williams Tractor of Fayeteville pursuant to a National Joint Powers Alliance cooperative purchasing contract in the amount of $47,226. Okay. Number 13, Scribbling Equipment of Springdale John Deere 750K dozer, resolution authorizing the purchase of one 2013 John Deere 750K dozer from Scribbling Equipment of Springdale pursuant to a state procurement contract in the amount of $230,750 and approving budget adjustment. Number 14, bid number 13-15, Littlefield Oil Company. A resolution awarding bid number 13-15 and approving a contract with Littlefield Oil Company in an estimated annual amount of $1,764,000 to provide gasoline, diesel fuel, and biofuel for vehicles and equipment. Number 15, Baldwin and Shell Construction Company. A resolution authorizing a contract with Baldwin and Shell Construction Company in the amount of $40,000 for construction management services, approving a $10,000 contingency and approving a contractor's fee of 5.5% for construction phase services, all related to the construction of the Dixon Street Entertainment District parking facility.
Move we accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as read.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Hetty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmar.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Okay, under unfinished business, number 1, amend 114. I'm sorry, that's right. Got to add one on, don't we?
I think,
Sorry.
Alderman Long, I believe, has a motion.
Okay,
Kit had brought to my attention that he had drafted a resolution to rename the Fayetteville District Court building in honor of Judge Rudy Moore. The new title of the courtroom, the Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore Courtroom. And I'd like to suspend the rules to add that to the agenda.
Second.
okay. We have a motion and a second to add, I'll just read it, resolution to thank Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore for his long and distinguished service to our city and our citizens, and to honor Judge Moore by naming the Fayetteville District Courtroom the Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore Courtroom. Okay, we'll be adding that to the agenda. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Hetty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmar.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would, since a copy has not been presented, I would like, it's a resolution, I'd like to go ahead and read that.
Yes.
Because there are some important, noteworthy information there. A resolution to thank Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore for his long and distinguished service to our city and our citizens, and to honor Judge Moore by naming the Fayetteville District Courtroom the Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore Courtroom. Whereas Judge Rudy Moore has ably and honorably served as the Fayetteville Municipal Judge and then the Fayetteville District Court Judge for over 22 years. And whereas the Fayetteville City Council wishes to express its deep respect, admiration, and affection for Judge Moore, and express its thanks and the appreciation of all of Fayetteville citizens to Judge Moore for his long and distinguished career as our District Court Judge. And whereas Judge Moore took an active part in the designing and furnishing of the Fayeteville District Courtroom, where he has presided ever since its construction, and thereby helped create one of the most elegant and functional district court courtrooms in the state. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby thanks Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore for his over 22 years of distinguished service to the city and citizens of Fayetteville. Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville hereby names the Fayetteville District Court Courtroom in honor of Judge Moore as the Fayetteville District Judge Rudy Moore Courtroom.
Comments do we have from the council on this?
I would just say, Mayor, that not only was Judge Moore a great judge, but he and his family were friends of ours for Katie and I for 30 plus years, so it's an honor for me to vote for this today.
Any other comments? Any public comments on this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. I will tell you, I knew of and knew Judge Moore for close to 50 years. And I thought he was not only a great judge, but he was a great family man. He was a great person. And I thought the service that we went to on Saturday was quite touching and a great honor to a great man. So I certainly, I want to thank Kit. I want to thank you, Alan, for making the motion. And what any other comments on that? Okay. We have a motion and a second to pass the resolution. It is a resolution, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass the resolution. Sandra, would you please call the roll? I'm sorry.
Marsh.
I did. I've asked for public comment. All right, go ahead.
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
All right, thank you all very much. Now, under unfinished business, number 1, amend 114.02 Farmers Market. An ordinance to amend 114.02 Farmers Market to transfer the current fee use of the south parking spaces on Mountain Street to the control of the Rural Mountain Producers Exchange Board, to close Mountain Street to traffic to permit sound amplification during the farmers market, and to make other changes. I would entertain a motion to go to the third reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go to the third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
An ordinance to amend section 114.02 Farmers Market to amend the use of parking spaces on the square on Saturdays, to permit sound amplification during farmers market with a special event permit, and to make other changes.
Okay. I believe it went to ordinance review, I take it. And I know there's some recommendations from ordinance review on this, so Matthew, do you want to start, or how do you all want to do this?
Sure. After ordinance review, we got a lot of good feedback, and then it actually seemed like the ordinance review committee wanted to explore some options that we hadn't talked about yet, and so that's what I did. I asked for the committee to give me a chance to draft an ordinance with the city attorney after talking with the businesses that are on the square. And so that was handed out to the council before the meeting here. We all have copies. And what I'd like to do, I guess, is just describe the changes that are in there. Do we need a motion and a second before I do that?
Well, we're going to have to make amendments to the original ordinance. So
I believe Mr. Petty's motion is going to be to amend
yes.
the proposed ordinance to read as presented in this printout that you received.
Okay, my question would be to the ordinance review chair. Alan, have you all reviewed changes, any of these changes?
The ordinance review committee has not met to discuss any changes since.
Okay.
And I told the ordinance review committee and each of the businesses that if anybody wants to take this back to ordinance review or just wants another couple of weeks to think about this, I'm totally fine with that, and I'll submit to the will of the council on that.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may make a comment just for the public participants, if the motion is made to actually replace the proposed original ordinance with the new one, that the city attorney read the ordinance for the record.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second
To replace the proposed ordinance in the agenda with the ordinance that has been passed out.
okay.
And to read it in full for second reading,
Yes, sir.
All right,
or for third reading.
third reading,
Third reading.
okay. Mark?
We just received this at 4:45 this evening, so I think it might be wise to take it back to ordinance review and really look at the implications that are in the language. That's my suggestion. Do I need some type of formal
Well,
motion?
there's a motion pending. Has there been a second to the motion?
Yes. Was that to read it?
It's
Was
just
that
to
what-
read it.
Yeah,
So,
that's what
at
I
this
thought I
point,
was
that-
seconding, to read. We haven't
So just
heard
to add
yet.
it to what we already have is what was my understanding, correct?
My understanding, and I'll let Alderman Petty explain his motion, but my understanding of the motion is to amend what you have pending to read as presented in this document, which you have received, and furthermore, that this be read in full for its,
We've already read it for the third time, so this would be the final ordinance.
this be
And
the
we
final
would have to
reading.
table it if you did not want to go ahead and
Okay,
approve
so
it
what we're
tonight.
looking at is putting these amendments to what we already have.
That's
Now, the
correct.
council can decide whether to do that or not.
Correct.
So we will have public discussion on the amendments, I assume. We already have a motion to second, so we're going to vote on this one way or the other.
On whether to amend
Unless-
it.
Yes. All right, everybody good with that? So before we do that, wouldn't we ask the public to weigh in on
Certainly.
the amendment
That's correct.
before we vote?
That's correct.
All
Amendment
Mayor,
only.
so we vote whether or not we're gonna table it.
No, we're going to vote whether we add this to what we already have, from what I understand. Is that correct, Mr.
What you
Attorney?
have in
We-
front of you is a brand-new
Yes.
ordinance drafted
Yes.
by Alderman
Where-
Petty
where
based
we
on
are-
comments.
where
So
we
you
are-
need to add that to your agenda. You need to read that ordinance into
And
the
then decide
record,
whether you want to.
and then you can take comment.
Okay, it has been read 3 times at this point.
Not this
Not this one.
But this is an amendment to the ordinance. The ordinance is presented and that is on the agenda has been read 3 times. After the third reading, Alderman Petty is presenting an amendment, basically as a substitute, to read like this.
Okay. So what are you going to instruct the council to do?
The motion is on whether, the vote is on whether to approve the amendment.
All right.
And then whether or not the amendment is approved, then there would be a final vote on the amendment or on the ordinance, either without amendment or as amended.
All right, so we'll stay with the amendment first. All right. What comments do we have on the amendment, since you haven't read it?
Well, I would ask that we read it,
Okay.
I'll be happy to read it.
and then I can just describe how we got to this point, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. I'll be happy to do that. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends 114.02 Farmers Market A Establishment, Location, and Parking Restrictions of the Fayetteville Code by repealing it in its entirety and enacting a replacement A as shown below. A. Operation of the Farmers Market on the Square. The nonprofit Rural Mountain Producers Exchange is authorized to continue to operate the Farmers Market on the Fayeteville Square in conformance with the following conditions. This marketplace shall be located on the interior parking spaces, those parking spaces adjoining the old post office of the downtown square. Vendors shall be permitted to park their vehicles at right angles to street curbs, provided that no vehicle shall be permitted to extend into the street in such a manner as to obstruct the free flow of traffic, and no vehicle shall be parked within 15 feet of any fire plug. All public sidewalks around the square shall remain freely available to the public, with the inside 2/3 width of the sidewalks free from any tables, booths, or displays. Farmers market vendors may occupy no more than 1/3 of the width of the sidewalk directly in front of their assigned parking space. As long as pedestrian traffic is not obstructed or hindered, the corners of the square sidewalks and any unoccupied space around the outside third of the sidewalk can be used during the authorized hours and days of the farmers market for governmental communications, free speech, and acoustic music purposes. No sound amplification may be used unless approved by the city through its special event permit process. Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby moves and renames Section 114.02B to C, moves and renames subsection C to D, moves and renames subsection D to E, and repeals subsection E in its entirety. Section 3, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby enacts a replacement subsection B as follows. B, expanded Saturday use of the square. 1, all streets closed. The exterior parking spaces for all streets around the square, East, Center, Block, and Mountain, shall be available for vendors as assigned by the Rural Mountain Producers Exchange Management by closing all 4 streets to non-vendor vehicular traffic. Vendors using large commercial delivery vehicles such as box trucks shall either be located on the interior parking spaces around the old post office building or park their vehicles outside the designated market area to maintain storefront visibility. The Rural Mountain Producers Exchange Management may leave Center Street or Block Street open to through traffic if there is an insufficient number of vendors to fill the north side parking spaces of Center Street or the west side of Block Avenue. The requirements of this subsection shall not apply to Center Street when it remains open to through traffic. No vendor parking is allowed on the west side of Block Avenue, except for food trucks, which shall be limited to the southernmost and northernmost parking spaces. 2, pedestrian aisles. To facilitate the flow of pedestrians between storefront and the streets, mid-block pedestrian aisles of at least 5 feet in width shall be maintained on both sides of each closed street. On the west side of East Avenue, the old post office access easement shall be such an aisle. On the south side of Mountain Street, the opening into the Town Center Plaza shall be used for the aisle. 3, exhibition spaces. A minimum of 28 feet on either side of each closed street shall be set aside and managed by the Rural Mountain Producers Exchange Management as exhibition space for nonprofit entities. The exchange management shall make available an online form for the reservation of exhibition space on a first-come, first-served basis. No vehicles may be parked within exhibit spaces. Unclaimed exhibition space shall be managed by the Rural Mountain Producers Exchange Management and may be used by store owners for sidewalk sales as temporary seating or by market vendors. 4, prepared food vendors. Vendors serving prepared food for consumption at the farmer's market shall not be located directly in front of any restaurant storefront without the written permission of the restaurant owner. Section 4, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amend Section 114.02C, articles permitted to be sold, by adding, quote, and have all appropriate permits, unquote, to the last sentence. Section 5, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby enacts Section 114.02H, dogs on the square during the farmer's market as follows. H, dogs on the square during farmer's market. The presence of properly leashed and socialized dogs shall be allowed on the square during farmer's market. Each person with an unleashed dog shall have on their person a plastic bag, which must be used immediately by the dog's handler or owner to remove any and all feces from their dog. Such bag must be immediately shown to any Fayetteville Animal Control officer or police officer when requested. If a dog damages any vendor's produce or product, the owner or handler shall immediately pay the full value to the vendor for such damaged produce or product. Any unprovoked dog that acts aggressively toward other dogs or provokes other dogs, and any dog that growls or acts aggressively toward any person shall immediately be removed from the entire square area by its owner or handler and never returned until properly socialized, not to be aggressive to humans, dogs, or other animals. A Fayetteville Animal Control officer or police officer can order any owner or handler to immediately remove a dog from the farmer's market area if in their opinion the dog is not properly socialized or is otherwise a safety or other type of problem. Failure to obey such lawful orders of any other violation of any provision of this subsection can be punished by a fine of up to $250. Section 6, that the City Council of the City of Fayeteville, Arkansas hereby enacts Section 114.02I, Annual Report to City Council as follows. I, Annual Report to City Council. The Rural Mountain Producers Exchange shall present its annual written report and answer questions about the operation and revenues received and expended in the Rural Mountain Producers Exchange to the City Council during its first meeting in March of each year. This written report shall include year-to-year changes in gross revenues and expenditures and the portion of revenue that is used for administrative overhead and not actual sales numbers. It shall also include this same information relative to its operation on any other city property, such as the Botanical Gardens at the Lake Fayetteville Park. This information will not be combined but differentiated between the square and other locations. The Rural Mountain Producers Exchange shall publish a map of the square showing the locations of vendor and nonprofit exhibit spaces and provide for online reservation for nonprofits. Section 7, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby enacts Section 114.02J fees as follows. J, vendor fees. The Rural Mountain Producers Exchange shall not adjust the fees it charges to vendors except with a vote of its full membership.
Okay, what comments do we have on that, Council? Okay,
We're talking about the amendment at this time.
yes, we are.
And there is not a procedure to table the vote on the amendment at this point?
There can be a motion to table
A vote on
the vote on the amendment.
I would
Yes.
like to move that we table this amendment because, like I say, we received this at 4:45 PM. It might be the perfect amendment, but I think it's got to be looked at seriously. So,
You want to table for 2 weeks, Mark?
yes.
Second.
We have a motion to second to table for 2 weeks. Everybody good? All right. Now, are we going to have to withdraw the first motion, or,
No, the motion to table is
okay,
Mayor, just to be clear, because we have an extra week in this particular period, it's a 3-week period.
okay, yeah, you're right. It is 3 weeks. Very good. Go ahead.
I'm totally fine with that. While we're here, you know, I certainly don't insist on describing where we've come. I don't want to waste the council's time if they think that's going to be redundant, but I'm here and the market management is here, the chair of the board is here, their attorney is here. So if there are any questions, or if you would like to have it described, I think we're certainly willing to engage with you on that.
And could I just get a clarification, just for the minutes and the record of Alderman Kenyon? I want to make sure I'm understanding. You're moving to table consideration of the amendment and basically consideration of the entire ordinance?
3 weeks.
Yes,
For
that is
3
correct.
weeks.
For a period of 3
3
weeks? Okay, that, just to clarify, that is the motion.
Yes, Ron.
So does it go back to ordinance review, or are we just thinking about it for 3 weeks?
Based on that motion, it would just be tabled.
It'll be tabled, but the ordinance review certainly would have the opportunity to look at it, wouldn't it?
If that's the wishes
Are
of the
we
council.
sending it back to ordinance review?
You can amend your motion to also send it to Ordinance Review Committee for further consideration.
I will
If that's
amend
your
my
desire.
motion to send it back to ordinance review for further consideration.
And I second that.
Okay. Now, is everybody good with that?
Thank you for
So
clarification.
we're
We're
going to
tabling
table
the
it.
amendment, tabling consideration of the entire proposed ordinance, and referring it back to Ordinance
For
Review
3
Committee.
weeks.
That's the vote that you'll be presenting, that you're
Everybody good?
doing right now. Yes.
All right. Any final discussion on it? Yes, Alan?
Would the ordinance review committee members, since everyone's present, be able to meet following the agenda session next week?
Whatever you'd like to do.
Yes, I can.
Street committee, Matthew, right? Next week.
I
Chris?
believe so.
There is no agenda session next week. That is our free week.
It's
It will be 2
We have
weeks.
street committee that, right, Chris? So some of, I'm not on
We'll find
ordinance.
it better to,
Okay.
I want to find a time when everyone can be there.
Does anybody want to hear from anybody?
Pardon, I didn't hear what Alderman Long said.
I just said I'll send out some times to the clerk, because I'd like to make it at a time when other council members can be present.
Do you want to hear from anybody, or everybody good to wait? All right. All right, Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmar,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along. Number 2, R-PZD 12-4284, Park Hill and Mountain Ranch. An ordinance establishing residential plan zoning district titled R-PZD 12-4284, Park Hill at Mountain Ranch, located at the southeast corner of Persimmon Street, Mountain Ranch Boulevard, containing approximately 2.23 acres, amending the official zoning map of the city of Fayeteville and adopting the associated master development plan.
An ordinance establishing a residential plan zoning district titled R-PZD 124284 Park Hill at Mountain Ranch, located at the southwest corner of Persimmon Street and Mountain Ranch Boulevard, containing approximately 2.23 acres, amending the official zoning map of the city of Fayetteville and adopting the associated master development plan. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the zone classification of the following described property is hereby changed as follows. From R-PZD 09-3253 to R-PZD 12-4284 as shown in Exhibit A and depicted in Exhibit B, attached hereto and made a part hereof, Section 2. That the change in zoning classification is based upon the approved Master Development Plan, development standards, statement of commitments, and the conditions of approval as submitted, determined appropriate and approved by the City Council. Further, that the conditions of approval shall be filed and available for viewing in the office of the City Clerk Treasurer of the City of Fayetteville. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force at such time as all of the requirements of the Master Development Plan have been met. Section 4, that the official zoning map of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas is hereby amended to reflect the zoning change provided in Section 1 above.
Okay.
Mayor, I would ask this item be left on the second reading tonight. I spoke with the applicant today. The Mountain Ranch neighborhood is holding its annual neighborhood meeting tonight, actually, and this applicant is at that meeting to answer any questions. And so he could not be present for tonight's meeting. So at the May 7th meeting, hopefully we'll be able to present this at the third reading and answer any questions.
So you want to hold it right there?
Yes, sir.
We'll move we go to the second reading.
Okay.
We hadn't done that yet, right?
I think that was the second reading.
That was the second reading. I think.
This was the second
Yes. All right. Ellen, did you?
Well, I was just going to ask that we hold it at the second reading too, so we could discuss it at the Ward 4 meeting, so that's good.
Okay, well, you've got 3 weeks to do that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Be busy.
All right. Any public comment on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. We're going to leave it on this second reading. All right. All right, now we're going to open up to a public hearing. I'm going to call the public hearing open, and it's going to be on the raise and removal of 320 West Skelton Street, a resolution ordering the raising and removal of dilapidated unsafe structure owned by Celia Kazort Barton, located at 320 West Skelton Street in the City of Fayeteville, Arkansas, approving the budget adjustment. Check.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Code Compliance responded to a request concerning 320 West Skelton on October 2012. The chief building official also inspected the property. His notes are that the house is beyond repairable, the foundation is collapsing, the walls and roof is rotten and soggy. We have sent the property owner an unsafe building notice of violation. We also sent the property owner a notice of this public hearing, both of them certified mail. They both received them. Today, as of today, the structure is not secured. It is deteriorated to a point where it's no longer safe. If the property owner doesn't comply with this raise and removal order, we will use the budget adjustment funds to contract the raise and removal, and a lien will be placed on the parcel for the incurred costs. Now, staff is recommending approval of the resolution and the budget adjustment.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comments on this? All right. If there's not any other comments, then I will close it to the public hearing, and we will go on to the resolution. I need to read that again, or are we all good with that? All right. What questions do we have for Chad on this? Anything? Okay. Any public comment on this? Okay.
I move we pass the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass the resolution. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Petty?
Yes.
Tennant?
Yes.
Shopmire?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Okay, under new business, number 1, transportation bond program. New project recommendations, resolution approving a list of additional projects to be funded by the city's transportation bond program. Chris, you have this? Jake?
Okay, the Transportation Bond Program began in 2006. It was approved by voters. $65.9 million was approved for issuance of bonds. We've issued all but about 34 million of those, and that last bond issue is proposed in 2014. With all of the additional funding that we've got through federal aid, cost shares with the highway department, et cetera, we've been able to do really over $100 million worth of improvements. Because of the projects that we had, various reasons, the projects came in less than bid, and for other reasons, we do have some additional funding that we need to identify projects for. And so that's what we're here to talk about tonight. The street committee has been working over the past several months, looking at the old list of projects from a larger bond issue and various sources, trying to put together a final list of projects to be presented to the council. And so I'm going to go through some of those tonight. You do have the list in front of you, and I'll go through those now, and then if you have any questions, I can answer those. First of all, starting with Old Wire Road, and this is the intersection, kind of on the lower left corner of the page is the Mission Boulevard and Old Wire Road intersection. That intersection is actually being designed right now by the Highway Department for a signal at that location. That project is already funded. As we move up Old Wire Road between Mission and Ash, we're proposing just a widening with 2 lanes, curb and gutter, sidewalks on both sides, and just a typical standard widening. North of Ash, as we move on, this is a segment between Ash and really between Ash and Stanton. We're looking at a more of a low impact development cross section, leaving the ditches in place, modifying them a little bit so they're less deep, adding some storm drainage where necessary, adding a wider sidewalk on one side only, an 8-foot wide sidewalk to continue that pedestrian way towards Gully Park. This next picture is the rest of Old Wire Road. As we get past Stanton, there are a few sidewalks, connections that we're proposing to make. We're also showing a roundabout at the Rolling Hills and Old Wire Road intersection. Looks easy on the plan. It's not quite as flat out there as this paper is. So we do have some challenges there, and so that'll just be a design challenge we'll have to work through. The next project is Zion Road, and we've got this split up on the page into 2 sections. So the top part of the page is beginning just past Vantage Drive at the end of the existing widening that was done as part of the original bond issue. And that's 3 lanes and then going down to 2 lanes as we go toward Old Missouri Road, and then back up to 3 lanes at Old Missouri Road. Adding sidewalks and bike lanes to both sides of this street as well. When we get on the east side of Old Missouri Road, you see that on the bottom of the page. We've got some sidewalks, some wider street segments. So we're proposing just some minor widening to get the bike lanes in, finish out the sidewalk segments. And then the yellow that you see closer to crossover, that's the portion that the Highway Department will be widening as part of the crossover road improvements. Moving on to the park entrance drive, this is for the regional park. There's been a lot of talk of this project, of course, and most of the talk is centered around actually building the park. We don't really have a funding source other than the bond program for the transportation infrastructure, getting the street into the park. So the proposal is to use this transportation bond funds to provide the funding. And the blue segment that you see is the entrance drive, beginning at Cato Springs Road, using Judge Cummings Road, which is a current gravel road, and then going to a new location as you enter the park boundary. Forgot to mention that the cost of the project, they're all included in your packet, but total cost of Old Wire Road is estimated at about $4 million. Zion Road is $4.65 million, and the regional park is $1.4 million. Not pictured, but certainly a big part of this program is the College Avenue enhancement between Maple and North Street. We've got a total of about $2 million allocated for that project, and it's essentially extending the sidewalk improvements that we've done between Rock and Maple. Those improvements are a little more challenging as we continue north toward North Street with some of the retaining walls and that sort of thing. So there are some design challenges that we'll be working through. Maybe have to think outside the box a little bit on how to make all those connections work. The next item on the list is what we're calling STPA matching funds. That is a $2 million placeholder item. That will allow us to use the federal aid funds that have recently become available through regional planning, and that's a 20% matching funds. I actually have a couple of pictures of those STPA projects that we have for 2013. I'll go to those now. This is Rupel Road, the segment between Mount Comfort and the Links Apartments. It's basically making that connection between the existing improved section on Rupel, getting across the bridge, getting rid of the old bridge and the substandard intersection at Mount Comfort Road. So that project, we actually just received the contract from the Highway Department, so we'll be able to move on and begin the acquisition of the consultant for that project. Also, recently, there was a meeting about Razorback Road. The Highway Department is designing that. We actually have about $2 million of federal aid fund for that project, and the city is providing the matching funds for that. That project is ready to go, probably will be bid later this year or early into 2014. Just to finalize the list, at the bottom we have a project called Intersection Improvements and Pedestrian Crossings. We have $500,000 allocated for that. The first task of that is really to identify which intersections we want to look at for improvements, and so we'll be meeting as staff talking about which of those projects which of those intersections need to come to the street committee, and we'll begin to put a list together for that project. And then lastly, we've got the contingency and cost sharing. Essentially, that's a placeholder project. It's about $1.5 million left over after all of these other projects are done. And the idea there is if cost sharing projects come up, developer cost share projects, et cetera, then we've got funds available to help out with those projects. And also for contingencies for some of these other projects that we have identified if we do have cost overruns, and we've got basically a little bit of cushion. So those are the projects. We're requesting approval of this list. If the council approves this by resolution, then we'll get to work on many of these projects, hiring consultants or beginning design as necessary, and begin to move forward towards construction.
All right.
Well done, street committee.
What comments do we have? Sarah?
I've been hearing from members of the Bicycle Coalition of the Ozarks about concern that there are not bike lanes planned for Razorback Road. Could you address that, please?
Yes, back in probably 2011, we had multiple meetings. The Highway Department did essentially a cross-section study of that project. We worked with the university, which of course has a big part in this, and came up with a cross-section that would essentially fit up through the, between the stadium and up as we go on up past through Maple. It gets to be very narrow and tight through there. So ultimately the cross-section developed was a 10-foot wide sidewalk, multi-use path on one side, a typical sidewalk on the other side. What we're talking to the Highway Department about now, the lanes it's just 4 11-foot lanes, so there's no dedicated bike path on the side of the lanes. But what we were talking with the Highway Department now is it's called a bicycle priority lane. It's very new. It's been used in just a handful of places, but it's essentially a sharrow that's put in the middle of the lane with some additional dots, dotted lines that identify that. And again, it's called a bicycle priority lane. So you're right, we don't have a dedicated bike lane because of the shared path at the university. That was their input, that they preferred to have a shared path. But we are working to come up with some accommodation for bicycles.
I've heard many complaints of people being told that they cannot ride their bikes on Razorback Road on game days when that's how they would like to reach the stadium. Will people have the right to ride their bicycles on Razorback Road during game days?
I believe that's a university policy. I can't speak to that. I'm not sure if anybody here could, but.
Alex.
We talked about this particular issue in the Active Transportation Advisory Board meeting this last Wednesday, and the committee made a recommendation, and will be Matt Mihailovich, when he's back, will be drafting a letter with our endorsement to the Arkansas Highway Transportation Department for these, and I'm not exactly sure what they're called again.
Bicycle priority lanes
That's
is
right.
what they've been called, yes.
For those. It's really a neat idea. I like it. There's signage on the road as well that actually tells people driving their vehicles that, you know, bicycles do have priority in those lanes. So, and to get more information on that, you could watch the online video of the active transportation meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
I'd just like to say how excited I am to see the section of road on Mount Comfort, connecting Rupel from Mount Comfort to the rest of the work that's been done on Rupel. I can't tell you how excited a lot of constituents will be to hear that. So I think everybody needs to just realize how excited I am about that.
I was working on that when I was an alderman, so I understand. Okay. Any other comments from the council? What public comment do we have on this? Oh, I thought you were coming up as a group. Please come up. Okay. Seeing none, bring it back to the council.
Move we pass the resolution.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution. I want to thank the street committee and staff for their work on this. I want to thank everybody that's been involved in this. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Going to be building a lot of infrastructure in the next 2 or 3 years.
That's right.
All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmire.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Okay. Next order of business, we have number 2, protection of the Buffalo National River resolution to oppose permitting an operation of concentrated hog farm along a major tributary to the Buffalo National River. Sarah, you want to start it off?
Yeah. You know, when I first learned about, or heard the news about this 6,500 head hog farm, specifically a confined animal feeding operation, that this was under construction on a tributary of the Buffalo River, I became very concerned, like many Arkansans. And like many of you, probably, I grew up hiking, canoeing, and camping along the Buffalo River with my 4-H club and my church group, and even still today, I make a point of making an annual pilgrimage out to this river. And so it turns out that I was not the only one concerned. I started hearing from a lot of citizens and community groups that were concerned not only about this specific hog farm, but also the process that was used to permit it. In fact, there's been so much concern that our state representative, Greg Letting, has proposed House Bill 2252, which would prohibit the issuance of permits for any confined animal feeding operations in the state for 2 years, which would allow for a thorough review of this permitting process. My hope in putting this resolution forward is that by passing it, we can amplify the citizens' voices and help them get their concerns heard, as well as demonstrate to our state representative that Fayetteville supports him in this. I've heard some people question what business of it is it of Fayetteville, what happens over at the Buffalo National River. And in answer to that, well, this hog farm is made with a federal loan guarantee, so that affects all of us. It was done with state regulations, which involve all of us. And the Buffalo River is a national river. It belongs to all of us. And it was citizens of Fayetteville that played an important role in it becoming a national river to start with and to stop the dams that were initially proposed. And many Fayettevilleans own property on the Buffalo River, and you know, it plays an important role in our lives. So I would really like to hear from some of the citizens that are here tonight that I know that are here to speak on this issue, because this isn't my resolution, this came from the citizens. So I would like to hear them speak about it.
I would also say that I heard from many citizens on this very same issue. So lots of citizens groups inside the city that's very environmentally friendly, and so Sarah brought it forward. I did co-sign with her on this, so this is something we are co-sponsoring. So what other comments do we have from the council on this? Okay. What public comment do we have on it? Please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm Alan Moore. I'm located between Lincoln and Prairie Grove. I'm here on behalf of the Arkansas Farm Bureau Federation and Farm Credit Services also involved. We definitely oppose all of this any of this resolution against this hog farm or any other hog farm or dairy farm, anything. You're picking on something that we feel like's not really in terms. You got to think back to what the farms stand for, where we all come from on this. Farms are very strong in Arkansas. Arkansas is leading, industry is agricultural. There's no question about that. #1 in rice production in the United States. The thing, you've got Fayeteville here, has got an outstanding farmer's market. That right there goes back to the agricultural. You can't be, we don't need to be picking on anything that is something that has already been set by the ADEQ, EPA, all of these agencies have regulated this. This particular farm over there, they went through all the proper permitting, the same as any other farmer would. We can't keep on choking back the farmers, or we're not going to have no food that we can afford to buy to feed ourselves or anybody else. If we become reliant on third world countries to feed the United States, we're going to be hungry, and we're not going to be able to afford it. Do you want to go down? Anybody want to go to the steakhouse and eat a steak that costs $60? That's now 10 or 15, and that's what we're leading to. We've got to be strong and support the farms and think about what we do when we make resolutions or laws of any sort. And I understand that everybody's looking at different approaches. We've got to think about them. That's what I'm asking, is that everyone think through what we're doing. Is it something that's in the longevity of the people and the citizens of our town of Fayeteville, of our state of Arkansas? No matter where it comes from, we've got to eat. Whether it's lettuce, rice, whatever it be, beef, cattle, does not matter. Poultry, you got the state of Arkansas is second in the United States in poultry or in chicken production. Now, that's something that's pretty large, and we got to think about all this and just keep thinking about it, because these organizations of the EPA, the ADEQ, they've spent years and hours and just I don't know how many hours, no telling. But we need to think about this before we start passing resolutions to look at controlling somebody from the outside. It's just like when Tulsa came in to the Arkansas with the control of the Illinois and the Spavinaw, Uchi watersheds a couple years ago. They were asking us to basically take our farmhood, our production of animals, and stop it because of polluting the rivers. We all know where that's went back to now, that they can't prove what they thought they could when we started. The pollution is not coming from this hog farm. It's, this hog farm's more or less been picked on, and we don't want to see that. We're here to stand up and back our fellow farmers. And I'd like to thank you all for listening to me, and appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Who else? Yes, Mr. Nick. Come on up, Joe.
Joe Neal, and I'm just speaking for myself here, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity. More than 3,000 people live in urban areas of Northwest Arkansas, and for most of us, the chance to visit a national park involves the Buffalo River, not a trip to Alaska or the Rocky Mountains. This is our park and our river. We go with our families and friends. What happens to the buffalo matters to us. I'd just like to share 3 points with you. Fayetteville citizens played a key role in the ultimately successful efforts to stop dams planned for the buffalo in the 1960s and the creation of the nation's very first national river in 1972. We have been told that all rules were followed in granting of a federal loan guarantee and state permit for the hog factory farm at Mount Judy. This may be so, but it's no defense. Every rule was followed except the most important, common sense. No process is exempt from common sense. If common sense has served as guide, the presence of the National River so close to the proposed facility would have dictated a different outcome. We are all in the buffalo. We all have a stake. State and federal agencies involved in this process have not served the citizens of Arkansas or the United States, and in dropping the ball, they have not served the interests of hog farmers in Newton County either. We have all been ill-served by a process that seems blind to the river, insensitive only to filling in blanks and checking boxes on forms. In consequence, the single most important ecological and recreational resource in Northwest Arkansas is placed at risk. I appreciate the value of living in a city where a governing council demonstrates common sense in the consideration of an issue so important to so many people. It is our river too, and it is right and fitting that Fayetteville is again in the center of the effort to protect the river's integrity. And those were comments that I wrote to give you tonight, but I just wanted to add one further thing. I'm really glad our friends from Newton County are here tonight to speak for the interests that they really care about. And I think if this process had been proper at the beginning, their needs to make a living growing hogs in Newton County could have been served, as well as protecting the National River. But because the process itself was flawed, it puts all of us into a conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right. When you come up, please introduce yourself. Now remember, everybody gets one turn to microphone so we don't have everybody getting back up and going over the same turf again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bo Bishop. I'm with Arkansas Farm Bureau, and I am here to represent the 2,915 farms of Washington County and the more than 636 farms of Newton County. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and I do want to touch on a couple of things. First of all, Alderman Marsh, we did work quite closely with Representative Letting on this bill that is before the House, and just for a little bit of correction, they have amended that bill, and it has passed the House of Representatives. It's currently sitting before the Senate Public Health, and what they have done is they have placed further notifications on the process of getting this permit, and they've put together a committee that will review the permitting process and make recommendations back to the legislature. So that is now being heard, I believe, tomorrow morning. It's about 10 a.m. in front of the Public Health Committee in the Senate. And I do want to, on the record, thank Representative Letting for his work with that, and we've been very proud to help support those efforts. But I do want to come before you tonight to clear up a couple of things. First of all, again, we've heard this being said, but this gentleman that we keep coming back to, this hog farmer in C&H Farms, I mean, these are real people here. These are people that I want to make clear. This is an 8th generation Newton County family. These people are Native Americans in their heritage. They've been there longer than most of us have ever. Our heritage dates back to this state. These are not people that have come into this, and I mean, they've taken care of this river for their lives. This is their livelihood. This is something they think closely about. And so I do want to make that clear. And what they've done is all that they're guilty of is following the letter of the law. And they're being ridiculed for that. I mean, if we want to pull their permit or do something like that, my question to the city of Fayetteville would be, are you guys ready to appropriate the $4 million that they have received in loans and put up personally to build this structure that is almost completed within weeks of being completed? And what do they do if that permit's not there that they've already been granted? Are they supposed to just eat that money, file bankruptcy? I don't think that's a fair assessment at all when all they have done is go above and beyond everything that's been asked of them. And if there's a problem with the process, let's address that with ADEQ and with the EPA. They're the ones who set the guidelines and the regs. And I come back to it and I sit and I get a little bit fired up. I take this stuff, I'm pretty passionate about it. And I've read through some of the documents that have been placed, and a couple of things I just want to point out is first, the use of the term hog factory farm. This is not a factory farm. These are family farmers who have a livelihood. This is not some guy sitting on a beach in Florida controlling what happens. This is their land, their farm, their hogs. Second of all, this 6,500 number, let's clarify a couple of things there. First of all, that number is a little bit inaccurate. This farm is permitted for 2,500 sows. Okay, the 4,000, the other 4,000, those are piglets. Well, when you start talking about piglets versus a 55-pound piglet versus a 225-pound sow, there's a large difference in the way that the government, the EPA, ADEQ, the way that they address those. This is not a finishing farm. This is not Iowa. This is not North Carolina, where we've had a lot of these problems with regulations and pollutants in the water. This is a farrowing farm. So that number, that 6,500 number, is a little bit inaccurate. You know, and to kind of come back to that, you know, in a couple of these memos and some things that I've read that have been published from the city, you know, you hear about how the restrictions in Arkansas are less than some of the other states. Well, that's just not true. Arkansas has a history of being proactive in animal manure issues all the way back to the 1990s, when Governor Clinton's task force on animal waste created Reg 5, which is what most of your farmers have to get today. And over the last 8 years, Arkansas has also adopted some of the most restricted, if not the most restrictive, phosphorus-based nutrient management plans required in the country. If anybody in this state understands phosphorus nutrient management, it's you guys, because of what you're dealing with. The Arkansas swine industry, it does not have a catastrophic failure or even violations. And Arkansas has never had a catastrophic failure. There's no comparison between these farms and the other farms across the country that have failed. You know, and again, I come back to this memo that we read that was placed on the website here, where it talks about the owners of these hog farms are moving from other states. Again, not true. The Henson family, again, dates back 8 generations. They care about what happens in this land. They care about what's going on. You know, you also hear about human excrement, where hog waste being compared to human excrement. I want to read you a conclusion from a study out of the University of Missouri. And they did a study on this very thing, human waste being compared to hog excrement. And here's the conclusion, because I mean, it's about a 5-page document. I don't want to get into too much of it. It says, direct comparison of human wastewater production and animal manure production is misleading and unproductive. Hog manure typically has little added wastewater, resulting in a product that has substantially higher concentrations of nutrients and organic matter that make up human wastewater. These higher concentrations make it feasible to use the manure as a fertilizer source for crop production. So basically, if you read the whole statement, all it says is it's just irresponsible to compare human waste and hog manure. So in closing, I'll just, one more thing. I almost missed one of my favorites, these massive pollution bombs that we call lagoons. Well, to meet the engineering specs of the nutrient management plan and everything that that this farmer, Mr. Henson and CNH Farms, had to meet, their lagoons, when at full capacity, could survive, their dams and levees and everything else have to be able to survive an incident similar to the 100-year flood. This is not some fly-by-night operation that they are just out there spraying manure everywhere, running into your creeks. That's not how this operates. So in closing, I would say this. There are 23 hog farms currently in Newton County, 5 of which are in the same area of CNH. If we start here, what happens? Do we close all of them? And if that's the case, there would be about 9,000 hogs that would be removed from Newton County. Well, if this is the precedent that we set, do you as a council believe that we should not allow a farm in an area where there's no pollution? I mean, there's no pollution currently in the buffalo. And you know, there's some that would argue that the major form of pollution in the buffalo is not animals at all, it's humans. And so with that, I would say, should we not close all 76 hog farms and remove the 29,000 hogs from Washington County? With that, I appreciate your time, and hope you guys have a good evening.
Thank you. What other comments do we have?
Thank you. My name is Ellen Mitchell. I'm a realtor here in Fayetteville. I too have been to the Buffalo River since I was a child. I grew up in Harrison, spent a lot of time there. I think we're all aware of the pollution aspect of this. I sure hope so. If you're not, Google hog farms in North Carolina and read about what happened to that state. It's been decimated. I'm going to come at it from another position, and that is real estate. I deal with a lot of relocations. I have a lot of people that come here because of job transfers, but I have even more people that choose to relocate here because of our environment. They come here because of the hills, the creeks, the rivers, the lakes, and how clean it is here. I mean, we have great reports all the time in the different magazines about how Fayetteville is a great place to retire and a great place to live. I don't think they're going to come here if the Buffalo River and any of our other rivers in the area are polluted by these giant hog farms. They're CAFOs, confined animal feeding operations. They're not in anybody's right mind a small family farm. They are huge meat production, backed in this case, as we know, by Cargill. And I think having one family and Cargill make a ton of money at the expense of polluting everyone's river. There's a school less than the 16th of a mile across Big Creek. It's just ridiculous. And I have people on Facebook that I'm in touch with for business that are incredulous that we're even considering having something like this that could pollute a national river, the first national river. So I very much back, and so does a lot of the groups that I'm involved with, having a resolution against these giant CAFOs. No one is against the family farmer with a reasonable sized farm. Even North Carolina has gone back and limited the number of hogs to 250 because for the past 15 to 20 years, they've been completely polluted by these gigantic farms. And I thank you very much for doing this. I hope you will, and I hope you will influence other towns to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else?
My name is Cassie Davis. I'm from Prairie Grove. My husband and I have a dairy farm that sits on the Illinois River. I didn't prepare anything, so I'm a little off the cuff here, but we've criticized the permitting system, and I would just like to point out that my father-in-law got the permit for our dairy farm several years ago. My husband and I have since taken over the farm, and just to change the name on our permit took over a year and several $100s. So to criticize the process of the permits, you really need to look at what the process is and understand that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, and it has to be done before funding or building. I would also like to mention that this particular hog farm is more than a mile. The property line is a mile from the buffalo. It would take a whole lot of running to get the pollution that this resolution is talking about into the river. That's not to mention all of the precautions that they've taken with the lagoon. Just like to thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Who else?
Grant Keenan. I live between Prairie Grove and Lincoln. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for hearing us this evening. Again, I didn't really come prepared to say anything, but I'd like to talk just a little bit on what this lady said a couple speakers back about the beautiful areas in northwest Arkansas and things. And it's what everybody needs to understand is that the farmer and the agriculturalist is the #1 steward of their land and their neighbor's land. We take as good a care of our property as what we can because that is our livelihood. We do not want to have some type of a pollution contaminating. If it ends up contaminating a river, well, it's contaminated our land too, and that's not going to serve up our production and is gravely going to affect our bottom line if we don't do things right. We want to talk about the beauty of northwest Arkansas. Mr. Moore mentioned a while ago that Arkansas is #2 in poultry production. That poultry production is concentrated in northwest Arkansas. The Tysons and the Cargills and the Georgia's farms that are right here in Benton and Washington counties. The EPA and the ADEQ restrictions that are in place now work. Ask Oklahoma. They have not found any pollutants, any contaminants in those watersheds that are crossing the line from Arkansas into Oklahoma, because the restrictions and the things that we have to abide by when we're spreading litter, when we're spreading fertilizer, other animal waste products onto our land, they work. I mean, they work because there is nothing showing up pollutant-wise. So the farmers are doing their job, and the restrictions and all of the controls and measurements that ADEQ and EPA have put in place are working. I will tell you that I truly believe, out of all the industries in the country, that agriculture is restricted as much as any other business nationwide. The red tape that we have to go through to be able to continue our way of life and provide food for every one of you and every one in this room, and 7.5 families per farm, I believe is the number now. What we have to do there is unimaginable. The typical person in their daily life has no idea what we have to do. A confined animal feeding operation, a factory farm, need to go back and look at those definitions. This is a family farm. Drive over there to visit with the people. It's not somebody that's moved in out of state. It's not Cargill running this farm. This is a person who owns their land, who should have a right to do as he so chooses on his land, as long as it meets the restrictions that are put in place and he follows those guidelines. I would venture to say that if there's pollutant in rivers, if we're going to restrict this hog farmer and make him shut down his operation or not proceed with his operation, when is there going to be a check on, let's say, boats, sea-doos, jet skis, whatever you want to see that are entering those rivers, making sure that they're not leaking gasoline, oil? Is there going to be somebody on the river at all times fining people when they throw a beer can overboard? I've got a friend that owns the property that borders Budweiser Beach. He's all the time picking up litter from Budweiser Beach. You know, if we're going to restrict the farmers, restrict the agriculturalists who are the greatest stewards of their land, I think that we need to have restrictions on all the people that are actually using the river, the people that are getting in the water. The pigs aren't in the water. The farmer's busy. We need to look at that as well. Again, I thank you for your time, and with that, I'll sit down. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else?
Mayor Jordan, City Council staff, thank you for hearing us out tonight, and I appreciate you bringing forward this resolution. This is very important for the city of Fayeteville to step up to the plate to help do what it can to protect the Buffalo River waters, because this national park is one of 2 in the country, and it's very important that Fayeteville step up to the plate and show that we are an environmentally conscious community. First, we have to understand that all these farmers back here are very, very important to all of us, because we'd have a hard time. I mean, I'm proof that I like farmers. But this is not a family farm we're talking about as compared to what we're talking about with farmers market and the small farms. We went from 59,000 farms in 1980 to now we're down to about 10,000 farms today. So the farms are getting fewer and larger, so becoming more industrialized in all of our farm production. There are 2 things in the resolution. I've been out of town, so I'd like to have gotten to this earlier. There are 2 things in the resolution I'd like to point out that I would ask for either Mayor or Sarah to consider amending this resolution. One is where it says that this 6,500 head hog farm would produce the same amount of waste as 6,500 people. Actually, it's closer to 23,000 people, because all the studies show how much a hog produces in solid waste compared to the solid waste of a human. Now, when you add water from toilets and flushing, all the numbers get skewed. The second thing is this. In the resolution, the section 2 of the therefore, section 2 asks that the hog farm be treated, or any major CAFO like this be treated as human waste, like they would build wastewater treatment systems for hog farms like that. I think that would be thrown out as an unreasonable assessment for any farm that would be so differently treated than any other farm that we have here. I think that section needs to be struck. However, I think we need to reiterate, if the state will follow through and make public notification that much stronger, because right now they mentioned section 5, small farms in Arkansas have to meet a higher standard than this CAFO does, because with small farms, there have to be notifications in the local paper, there have to be notifications to the surrounding property owners. With these giant CAFOs, and this is the first one in the state like this, this is only required to have a notice on the ADEQ website right now. So anybody interested would have to follow through and go to the ADEQ website once a week to see if there are any new giant CAFOs coming in. And make no mistake, this is a much, much larger farm. This is a very different farm than anything we have in Arkansas to this point. So North Carolina has a moratorium on new hog farms and expansions of hog farms. South Carolina is looking, South Dakota is looking at a moratorium. Iowa has lots of problems. And I would hate to see this set the standard for giant hog farms, and it is a huge hog farm, there's no doubt about it. We all support the small farmers, the small farms, the family farms, we all support those. This is not that. So if we can preclude more of these factory farms from coming into the headwaters of the Buffalo River, I think we're going to be better off for it, because once that we open up the first one, which is likely going to happen anyway because it's been permitted, and the ADQ does not want to back off their original permit, but there has to be some kind of notice to where this can't continue unabated in the Buffalo River watershed. This is a unique property for this state and for the country. 1.5 million visitors go to the Buffalo River every year, a lot of those people from Fayetteville. And if we start seeing accidental hog runoff and these huge lagoons accidentally leak, the 100-year floods are becoming more and more common these days. If we have one major overflow into the creek, into the river, we'll have massive fish kills, and the reputation of the Buffalo River will change to the point that we will lose a large segment of the tourist population in this state, and we'll have much more dramatic negative impact than any hog farm could produce a positive impact. So that's something we'd have to consider as well. So if you would please consider the changes to the resolution, and also to address this to the governor, because he is over the ADEQ, and it might be helpful if he would step up to the plate. This is an agricultural state. We all support agriculture. This is different. This is a different kind of farm in the wrong location. So I'm glad Fayetteville is stepping up to the plate to address it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Who else?
Aubrey Shepard. Looking forward to an environmental gathering this weekend for Earth Day. It's Monday, and on Saturday and Sunday we start having a lot of things for Earth Day. And this one's at World Peace Wetland Prairie, and 1 to 5 on Sunday afternoon. And I've got handouts for all of you. And that's not really off topic, it's just my promo for the night. But there are factors that may not have been mentioned. This, I don't know exactly the design of the lagoons or whatever they're called that are going to settling ponds or something. But if there's any spot where that material leaks into the natural soil in that area, it's over karst geology. That means that there's deep bedrock faults, just as there are right here in Fayeteville, Arkansas. And that water flowing downstream from there, I don't know that stream well enough as I do some of the ones around here. It's a long way over there for me, but I have been there in the past. But a lot of these are what we call losing streams. Anything that runs downstream, a percentage of it will go underground, or at least it'll disappear from your sight if you're walking in the summer or floating and you find you have to carry or drag your canoe or whatever you're using to get further downstream to find some water on the surface again. And that going underneath there may not come up immediately, and maybe it's filtered a little bit in the process. But the fact is that those pollutants will get down to the main river. And to the speakers talking about family farm, I don't know how many family members will be there. I don't know the family, but their Native American heritage is an interesting thing. Native Americans did not have those non-native hogs. And I don't know a species of wild hog in Arkansas that is native. Somebody can speak to that. But the point is that the Buffalo River preservation honors the way the American Native people lived. It saves a large part of the best woodland areas and the best running water in the state. Beaver Lake, Bull Shoals, Lake Norfolk, Table Rock, name several others, but all of these destroyed the Buffalo River in kind. That is, they were all like the Buffalo River. If we could see them all again today, we'd say, why didn't we save all of those? Why did we let those be dammed up? Why, if we wanted to protect the way of life that the Native Americans had and the quality of life and kind of share it by going there ourselves, then failure to adopt this ordinance would, wait a minute, I don't know which way I'm going with that statement, but the point is, this resolution needs to be passed as a model for other cities and other people in the state. And I agree with Mr. Cootie that it should be sent immediately to the governor of the state and let him know that some cities like Fayeteville, where I think Joe Neal probably said that you know, the start of saving it came from people in Fayetteville. I was in college in Louisiana when that effort was made, and Shreveport even had a chapter of the Ozark Society back then. And so people in all these states around have come there as tourists for many, many decades, not just since the river was protected. If I may, Mr. Mayor, may I hand these to the clerk? Little invitations.
Go ahead and hand to the city clerk, Aubrey.
Anyway, thank you very much for bringing this ordinance, this resolution forward, and it will make a lot more people proud than will ever possibly be hurt by it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aubrey. All right, who else? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Sarah?
I would just like to address the concern that we're anti-farm and that this is a family farmer. I mean, I grew up on a family farm. My family, we were Madison County Farm Family of the Year in 1983, and I know what a family farm looks like, and a confined animal feeding operation is not that. You know, when we think of a hog farm, we might think of hogs grazing and, you know, rooting in the mud like you would see on TV, and therefore generating a non-point source pollution that is difficult to control or clean up. But with a confined animal feeding operation, I mean, it is exactly that. The pregnant sows are often confined in pens that are so small that they can't even turn around. And the waste is often hosed off into these big lagoons. So it is possible to treat this waste because it is being collected into a point, which is why it is point source pollution. So I would just like to say that, you know, this is not the family farms that are supporting our farmers market. This is a whole different type of you know, factory farm that makes it more difficult, in fact, for those small family farms to compete price-wise with these more efficient operations that perhaps are less humane. So, but ultimately this comes down to keeping our Buffalo River pristine, and that's what this resolution seeks to support.
I think that's well put. Anybody else? Ron?
The only thing I see wrong with this is that my name's not on that with the from line. I would have loved to have been co-signing this with you. Mayor, I watched you when we passed the streamside protection ordinance. You dedicated some of your staff's time. We all worked hard on looking at what we could do in Fayetteville to protect our streams and our water supply. And we listened to property owners talk about what we were doing to their right to work with their land in their own backyard and what they might do. And I'm proud to have voted for that. We did a very good thing here in Fayetteville to protect our stream sides. Welcome all of you who from Prairie Grove, Lincoln area where I grew up, and I do have a love in my heart for farmers. Grew up picking eggs out of chicken houses and hay in fields and all of that, and I do appreciate what you do, but I'm very proud to be on this Fayetteville City Council where we support and protect our water supply, water for all Prairie Grove, Lincoln, the Buffalo River, and all of us. So thank you, Mayor, for your hard work and your administration to encourage the protection of our water. Appreciate you for that very much.
Thank you. Justin.
So let me start by saying, don't get me wrong here. I don't want to be floating on the river and have hog waste float by my canoe any more than anybody else. But I have an issue with a couple of things. One is, I feel like if I vote for this, I'm saying out loud that ADEQ doesn't know what they're doing. Maybe they don't. But if this thing is this obviously bad and yet they got permitted, I think there's a much bigger problem. And it sounds like this thing may get built anyway, but that's, to me, not the problem. I think, where are we missing out? Did ADEQ not talk about the coarse geology that Aubrey just talked about? Did they not talk about the points that Dan Cootie mentioned? Where was the failure here? I haven't seen the ADEQ report on this and how they got, I don't know, do we have that? Does anybody have that, or do we have access? I'm sure I could go online and get it, I guess, to read about this particular farm. I mean, I don't know that. Yeah. Because I'd like to know their justification. I'd like to know if this was just somebody. I would like to know if you.
I got a copy of the permit if I see it. Do you have a copy of the National Park rebuttal?
Okay, let's not get into going back and forth.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I probably need to look at that, but not now. I would like to see more information on the North Carolina situation. If they went through this, and I don't want to repeat a mistake they made, and then I'd like to see what they've done to try to fix it. I also feel like that if I vote for this, I have a real problem voting against a farmer. I know that this thing's bigger than a family farm. I get all that, but the reality is the more farmers I talk to, the more bigger things they have to do just to stay alive, just to make any money. The small farms are going away. The numbers prove that. And having a farm outside of Lincoln still to this day, I know that we go to immense amounts of trouble to keep pollution to get into the ponds and streams that are there. And we do water tests all the time, and the well works just as well now. The spring feeds just as clean as it ever did. So an 8-generation farm family who has a lot to lose if their farm fails and has a lot to lose if the river gets polluted, I hate to sit up here and go, I know much better than you. Because I've been a farmer, never. Just because I have a farm outside of Lincoln doesn't mean I'm a farmer. So if the state is taking this up, and it sounds like there's a committee being formed, and it sounds like that the state is taking some action, I would love to see the results of that before I vote against any size farmer, and before I vote saying out loud that ADEQ doesn't know what they're doing, and they're obviously crazy and they shouldn't have done this. Why? Why did they do this? There's got to be a reason, I hope, or we have a much bigger problem. So that's my issue with this. Not that I want to pollute rivers. Joel, don't print that. But the fact is, it's just, there's got to be more to this. I've got to believe there's more to it. Maybe I had too much trust in that group of people that permitted this. But anyway, that's my problem with it.
Okay. What else? Anybody?
Can I still speak, or is it too late?
No, we're closed to public comment unless an alderman brings you up. Okay. All right.
I move we pass the resolution.
Okay. Before we vote, I would like to say that my family's also lived in Arkansas for 6 generations. I was raised on a farm. Actually, I was raised on a poultry farm. And every year we took the chicken litter and we spread it all over the fields. We bulldozed down every tree that we had to make pasture land for the cattle. And you know, now you can look at my family farm and you see the erosion that's been caused because we don't have any trees anymore. You can see the pollutants that has gone into the ponds and streams. And we did that because, you know, we were going to raise cattle. We were going to raise chickens. That's how we made our living. But you know, there has also got to be a better way. Because I have seen the results in my lifetime. I've seen the native prairie grasses go away, gone. I've seen a lot of our streams polluted, and I really think that somewhere that we have to say we've got to do things a little better. So that's one of the reasons why I have co-sponsored this with Councilmember Marsh, and I will leave it up to your wisdom on how you vote. All right. Any other final comments? Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Petty?
Yes.
Tennant?
Yes.
Shopmar?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Council. All right. Next order of business. All right, number 3, repeal ordinance number 5576, CI2. Did I do that correctly, Ray?
Yeah, square.
Thank you. It's the little power thing there. Aviation Incorporated, an ordinance waiving the requirements to form a competitive bidding and approving a contract in the amount of $20,342 per month plus upfront insurance costs with CI2 Aviation Incorporated for the provision of air traffic control tower services for Drake Field upon the date of the tower closure by the FAA should such occur, and to repeal ordinance number 5576 and approve the contract to begin April 8th, 2013.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and approving a contract in the amount of $20,342 per month plus upfront insurance costs with CI2 Aviation, Inc. for the provision of air traffic control tower services for Drake Field upon the date of tower closure by the FAA, should such occur, and to repeal ordinance number 5576 that approved this contract to begin April 8, 2013, whereas federal budget sequestration cuts have led the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, to announce the closure of control tower operations at Drake Field, and whereas continued air traffic control tower services are essential to assuring maximum safety for air traffic and passengers flying through Drake Field, and whereas the expertise and training necessary for the provision of air traffic control tower services is held by the current contract provider, CI2 Aviation, Inc., now therefore be ordained by the City Council, City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby determines an exceptional situation exists in which competitive bidding is deemed not feasible or practical, and therefore waives the requirements of formal competitive bidding, and approves a contract in the amount of $20,342 per month with CI2 Aviation, Inc., marked as Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, for the provision of air traffic control tower services for Drake Field upon the date of tower closure by the FAA, should such occur. Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby repeals ordinance number 5576 so that the contract attached as Exhibit A will supersede the initial contract because the term of service and amount of insurance payment are no longer valid because of the FAA stay of its closure order.
Okay. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you for allowing this to come before you again. Remember, we did pass the original ordinance in an emergency basis last time. And guess what happened the next day, or 2 days later? The FAA decided to stay the execution of our tower and move it forward until June 15th. What we then did was immediately call the contractor, and he has returned the check in full, never cashed. Of course, this action then terminates the contract, which has never been activated at any rate. The tower controllers are still in the tower, operating the tower as they did before the sequestration order was issued. And humbly, we just request that you would approve this, which gives us the opportunity, should this occur, to start serving with this contract, the tower services for a 12-hour period on a daily basis until we get the thing resolved again. We truly believe we have an opportunity. I can tell you that Mr. Kelly, our Assistant City Attorney, is doing a yeoman's work to get the job done. He has filed suit against the FAA, and there are now 25 or so communities that have done the same. And then there's another suit with probably like number of communities that have done likewise. So the FAA is under quite a bit of pressure, even though today Secretary LaHood stood in front of the Senate inquiry and said, we still plan to close the towers because we don't have any money. So there is a big hill to climb. But this will get us through the interim until we can get it fixed. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ray on this? Okie dokie. Any public comment on this? All right. And so,
I move we pass the ordinance.
well, it's a, give me a second reading first, Della.
Second reading. Second reading. I
Move to suspend the rules and move to second
Yeah,
reading.
we got all that,
Thank you, Jason.
That's what she meant to say.
Second.
All right, Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmar.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and approving a contract in the amount of $20,342 per month plus upfront insurance costs with CI2 Aviation, Inc. for the provision of air traffic control tower services for Drake Field upon the date of tower closure by the FAA, should such occur, and to repeal ordinance number 5576 that approved this contract to begin April 8th, 2013.
Move to suspend the rules and go to third and final reading.
We have a motion and second, go to third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmar.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and approving a contract in the amount of $20,342 per month plus upfront insurance costs with CI2 Aviation, Inc. for the provision of air traffic control tower services for Drake Field upon the date of tower closure by the FAA, should such occur, and to repeal ordinance number 5576 that approved this contract to begin April 8, 2013.
Okay, any final comments from the council? All right, Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Shopmar.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Okay. What announcements do we have tonight? Okay.
Compassionate Friday,
Yes.
Compassionate Fayeteville
Saturday.
on Saturday, the 27th, 10:30 at the Fayetteville Public Library.
Okay. Sarah?
And Aubrey kind of stole my announcement, but I just wanted to reiterate, because this is happening in Ward 1. There's an Earth Day Festival at the World Peace Wetland Prairie. That's at 1121 South Duncan Avenue, which is between MLK and 15th Street. It's going to be Sunday, April 21st from 1 to 5 p.m. It's going to be lots of fun for the family, music, bird songs, and a great opportunity to discover this unique jewel of a park in Southgate.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's free.
Mayor,
Stack.
we've got, well, actually, Alderman want to finish their announcements, and then I'll do the.
I was just going to say, everybody come out to Ward 4 on the 29th.
Absolutely.
It's the 5th Monday this month, but it's always the last Monday of the month, 6 o'clock p.m. here at City Hall, and Bruce Shackelford really will be here. this time.
Bruce really will be here this meeting to tell us more about the Woolsey Wet Prairie.
Absolutely.
Be a great educational time for people. I know the City Council is going to be touring that again, I believe May 6th, but it will be a good introduction for your tour.
And it's Ward 4 and Friends, so we invite everyone who'd like to come to participate in that.
Right, Mayor, since we have hit this, Earth Day is Monday, April the 22nd. Mayor Jordan will be doing a proclamation in Gully Park at 11:30 that morning. We encourage all the council members who can fit that in their schedule to please come and support that. Additionally, on Wednesday, April the 24th, there will be a public meeting on the proposed master plan of the Botanical Gardens of the Ozarks. That will be held at the Botanical Garden site located at 4703 North Crossover Road, which is at Lake Fayeteville Park. There's also a meeting that will be held at ADEQ public hearing on proposed changes to the Arkansas water quality standards, 6 p.m. in room 219 City Hall. Just had that on the calendar. I think it's, we'd be looking for that one to give you the actual date, but that's here at City Hall. We're also having a Tour for Life. We'll be making a stop in Fayetteville. It's a mobile adoption event on Sunday, the 21st. It'll be at the Walmart Supercenter on Mall Avenue between 12 and 4. Reduced adoption fees, and that's in partnership with the City of Fayetteville's Animal Services Division. A part of our goal to have a very low euthanasia rate with increased adoptions. Our last 2 spring ward cleanups are coming up over the next couple of weeks. There is a cleanup on April the 27th, so for those of you in Ward 1, mark your calendar. You have 2 weeks to gather your stuff. One location will be Shaver Foods parking lot. It's located at 1367 South Beechwood. It's behind the Randall Tyson Track Complex. The second will actually be at our solid waste and recycling facility, which is located in Ward 1 at 1560 South Happy Hollow Road. Our Ward 2 cleanup will be, which is the last one for the year, and it's actually the weekend prior to the graduation for the University of Arkansas, so it's hosted in Ward 2, an opportunity for many of our students to do their cleanup and their moves after the spring semester. Woodland Junior High at 7 East Poplar Street and Church of Christ at 310 West Center Street are the 2 locations for the Ward 2. Also on April the 27th, we will be providing paper shredding services for our citizens who need to shred sensitive documents, as well as a prescription medication take-back program. Remember, one of our goals is to make sure that we reduce the number of medications being flushed. That's not the disposal method. We desire it doesn't affect our waterways, and we want to encourage citizens who need to dispose of old and outdated medications to please use that date and a part of the police department's Take Back event program. And the ADEQ public hearing on proposed changes to Arkansas water quality is Thursday the 18th. It's this week, 6 p.m. right here in this room in 219. And to remind the council, there is no council agenda session this next Tuesday. This is your extra week to do another city meeting if you like,
Yes.
but no agenda session.
Up, so. Ray, you have an announcement.
Yes, Mayor. One of our candidates for governor is going to be at the Drakefield Airport in the Capstone at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
So he's doing a whirlwind trip, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Oh, Mayor, I do have one final and very important announcement. The Northwest, the National Weather Service out of Tulsa, which is our briefing service, issued a warning for Northwest Arkansas cities today in emergency management. In case you haven't seen it, regarding the severe weather potential for tomorrow and tomorrow night. There will likely be at least 2 waves of storms that affect eastern Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas, Wednesday through Thursday morning. And given the expected instability and wind shears across at least portions of our area, there will be severe storm warnings, large hail, damaging wind, and the potential of tornadoes. We want to ask our citizens to please watch the weather closely, heed to all warnings, and that is an evening time period, which is obviously a more dangerous time period for storms. So please listen closely to your weather warnings.
Okay. Anybody else? I want the alderman from Ward 1 to, I'm going to keep a very close eye on that Rogers Street, because that's kind of a can be an emergency situation, because we're really seeing a lot of movement on that, and it's right up above the water towers. So and we're watching that very closely. I do have some concerns. We're going to get on that very quickly. Thank you all very much for your work on that too tonight, because that's something that really needs to be done quickly. Okay, I don't have anything else. It's good work tonight, y'all. We're adjourned.